The massive doors of the Galactic Council chamber slid open with their usual silent grace, but today something felt wrong. Ambassador Kyung-ho's seat remained empty for the third month in a row, and the absence seemed to echo through the vast hall like a missing heartbeat. The other delegates whispered among themselves in dozens of different languages, but all their conversations carried the same nervous energy. Council President Veltar adjusted his ceremonial robes with 4 of his 6 arms, while his large black eyes scanned the assembled representatives. His people, the Zephyrians, had ruled the galaxy for over 10,000 years, and nothing in that time had prepared him for this moment. The humans had simply stopped talking to them. Honored delegates, Veltar began with his voice carrying across the chamber through translation devices. We gather today to address the unprecedented situation with our human allies. He paused, and the word allies hung in the air with bitter irony. It has been 93 standard days since humanity ceased all diplomatic communications with this council. Councillor He-jin from the Altarian Republic leaned forward in her crystalline chair. Her species had worked more closely with humans than any other, and the worry lines on her blue-tinted face had deepened considerably over the past months. She remembered the last conversation she had with Ambassador Kyung-ho, and how his usually warm demeanor had turned cold when discussing the Council's latest restrictions on human expansion. President Veltar, she said, standing gracefully, perhaps we should review what led to this situation. Her words carried a subtle accusation that made several delegates shift uncomfortably in their seats. The truth was that the Council had grown increasingly nervous about human development. In just 200 years since first contact, humans had progressed from barely managing interplanetary travel to commanding the most advanced military fleet in known space. Their technology advanced at a rate that defied all established patterns of species development. General Wu Bin of the Hegemony Defense Force activated a holographic display that showed the galaxy's current state. Red zones marked areas where piracy had increased dramatically since human patrols stopped. Yellow areas indicated trade routes that had become dangerous without human protection. The display painted a picture of a galaxy slowly descending into chaos. The human silence is not merely diplomatic, General Wu Bin reported with his scarred face grim with concern. Our long-range sensors show that all human ships have withdrawn to their territory. They are not responding to distress calls from any species, including their former allies. The Crystalline Confederation's representative, Ambassador Dae-ho, spoke next. His species possessed remarkable computational abilities that allowed them to process vast amounts of data and predict future trends with startling accuracy. We have run extensive calculations on human behavior patterns, he announced, while his crystal body pulsed with soft light. The probability that this is a temporary, diplomatic protest is less than 3%. A chill ran through the assembly. The Crystalline Confederation's predictions were rarely wrong, and never this definitive. Dr. Su Young from the Nexari Research Institute stood to address the council. Her people were known throughout the galaxy for their scientific achievements, but even they had been amazed by human innovation. Distinguished colleagues, she began, we must consider what humans might be developing during this isolation period. Their research capabilities exceed our own in several key areas. The chamber fell silent as delegates contemplated this reality. Humans had already revolutionized faster-than-light communication, making instant messages possible across galactic distances. They had developed weapons that could destroy entire fleets with single shots. Their medical technology had eliminated aging for their species within 50 years of achieving it for themselves. What concerns me most, Dr. Su Young continued, is their pattern of breakthrough innovations under pressure. When humans face obstacles, they do not merely overcome them. They fundamentally change the nature of the challenge itself. Veltar's primary eyes focused on the empty human chair, while his secondary eyes watched the increasingly agitated delegates. The Zephyrian Empire had maintained order in the galaxy through careful balance of power and diplomatic pressure. Humans had disrupted that balance simply by existing, and now their absence threatened to shatter it completely. We must consider our options, Veltar announced, though his voice carried little confidence. Perhaps we could send an envoy to human space to negotiate. Impossible, replied Captain Yu Jin from the Stellar Navigation Guild. Her people were master pilots who knew every safe route through the galaxy. Human space is completely closed. Our ships cannot even approach their borders. Some kind of barrier prevents any vessel from entering their territory. This revelation sent murmurs of alarm through the chamber. No species in galactic history had ever developed technology capable of sealing off entire star systems, let alone the massive territory that humans now controlled. Ambassador Deho activated his personal data display and shared his latest calculations with the Assembly. Based on human technological progression rates and their current isolation period, we estimate they are advancing approximately 50 times faster than normal. Without outside contact, they have no distractions from pure research and development. The implication struck every delegate simultaneously. Humans were already technologically superior to most species, and now they were advancing at an unprecedented rate, while completely hidden from observation. Dr. Su Young added another disturbing piece to the puzzle. We have detected unusual energy, signatures emanating from human space. The readings suggest they are manipulating matter at the quantum level on a massive scale. This should be impossible with any known technology. Council President Veltar felt his authority slipping away like sand through his fingers. The galaxy looked to the Council for guidance and protection, but how could they protect anyone from beings who might have transcended physical limitations entirely? What was the exact content of their final message? Asked Counselor Hyejin, though she already knew the answer. General Wu Bin activated the recording, and Ambassador Kyung-ho's voice filled the chamber one last time. His tone was calm and professional, but underneath lay something that made even the bravest warriors feel cold. The Galactic Council has repeatedly demonstrated its inability to treat humanity as equal partners, rather than threats to be managed. Therefore, diplomatic relations with the Galactic Council are hereby terminated. Do not contact us again. This decision is final. The recording ended and silence filled the chamber once more. Every delegate understood that those words had been chosen carefully. Humans did not make idle threats, and they never bluffed about their intentions. There is something else, General Wu Bin said reluctantly. Our intelligence networks have detected human activity in previously uninhabited systems. They appear to be building something on a scale we cannot comprehend. Entire planets are being moved and reshaped according to unknown designs. The magnitude of such an undertaking was beyond anything the galaxy had ever witnessed. Moving planets required energy outputs that most species could only dream of achieving, and humans were apparently doing it casually while remaining completely isolated. As the emergency session continued into its 7th hour, one fact became increasingly clear to everyone present. The galaxy had not just lost its most powerful military ally. They had created an unknown enemy, whose capabilities grew more terrifying with each day of silence. The humans were out there somewhere beyond their ability to observe or contact, developing technologies that could reshape reality itself. Council President Veltar looked around the chamber at faces filled with fear and uncertainty. The great Galactic Council that had maintained peace for millennia was now helpless before the silence of a single species. The most frightening part was knowing that this was probably exactly what the humans had intended. The situation had grown worse beyond anyone's predictions. 6 months had passed since humanity's final diplomatic message, and the galaxy was falling apart. Trade routes that had been safe for centuries now crawled with pirates and raiders who knew that human patrol ships would not come to help anymore. Counselor Hyejin stood before an emergency session of the Inner Council, looking more tired than anyone had ever seen her. Her people, the Altarians, were natural diplomats who had spent generations learning to understand other species, but humans had always been different. They thought in ways that seemed impossible and acted with a speed that left other species struggling to keep up. You must understand, she said, addressing the small group of the galaxy's most powerful leaders. Humans do not think like us. When we face problems, we form committees and study the issues for years before acting. When humans face problems, they solve them immediately and then improve their solutions until they become unrecognizable. President Veltar shifted uneasily in his chair. The Zephyrian Empire had controlled galactic affairs for millennia, through careful political maneuvering and patient long-term planning. Humans operated on completely different principles, and their success despite ignoring established wisdom had always troubled him. "What specific concerns do you have about their current activities?" he asked, though he suspected he would not like the answer. General Wu Bin activated a massive holographic display that filled the center of the room. The image showed a three-dimensional map of known space with human territory marked in an ominous red color. "This is what we knew about human space 6 months ago," he said, as the display shifted to show current observations. "And this is what we can detect now." The change was shocking. Human territory had not expanded outward as expected, but instead seemed to have folded in on itself. Where dozens of human colonies and stations had once been visible to long-range sensors, there was now nothing but empty space. "They have disappeared." General Wu Bin continued with obvious confusion in his voice. "Not destroyed, not relocated, but simply gone as if they never existed in the first place." Ambassador Deho processed this information through his species' advanced computational matrix, and the results made his crystalline form flicker with distress. "Our calculations suggest several possibilities," he announced to the room. "The most likely scenario is that humans have developed technology that allows them to exist outside normal spacetime." The words hung in the air like a death sentence. No species in galactic history had ever achieved such advancement, and the implications were terrifying beyond measure. Dr. Su Young accessed her personal research files and shared them with the group. "During my collaboration with human scientists, I observed their approach to seemingly impossible problems. They do not accept limitations as permanent. Instead, they treat every law of physics as a puzzle to be solved." She activated another display, showing documented examples of human innovation. When they encountered the light-speed barrier, they did not simply build faster ships. They developed technology that folds space itself, making distance irrelevant. When they faced aging and death, they did not just extend lifespans. They eliminated the aging process entirely. President Veltar felt ancient fears stirring in his mind. His species had remained in power for so long partly because they ensured no other species could develop technologies that might threaten Zephyrian dominance. Humans had been advancing too quickly, and the Council had indeed been planning ways to limit their expansion. "There is more," General Wu Bin said grimly as he activated classified intelligence reports. "Our most advanced reconnaissance ships attempted to probe the edges of human space. 3 vessels were sent. None returned." The room fell silent except for the soft humming of translation devices. "Were they destroyed?" asked Counselor Hyejin, though she feared the answer might be worse than simple destruction. "Unknown," replied General Wu Bin. "They simply ceased to exist. No wreckage, no energy signatures, no trace of their presence anywhere. Our sensors show they reached the boundary of human space, and then the universe acted as if they had never been built." Ambassador Deho's crystalline body pulsed rapidly as he processed countless probability calculations. "The mathematics of such technology are beyond our understanding. To selectively remove objects from reality itself would require control over fundamental forces that we have only theorized about." Dr. Su Young pulled up her personal logs from working with human researchers, and her expression grew increasingly worried as she reviewed them. "I worked with a human scientist named Dr. Park, who was investigating quantum consciousness theory. At the time, I thought his ideas were interesting but impractical. Now I wonder if humans have actually implemented technologies based on those theories." "What kind of technologies?" President Veltar asked, though he was not sure he wanted to know. "The ability to exist in multiple dimensional states simultaneously," Dr. Su Young replied. "Consciousness that can interact with reality at the quantum level. Technology that responds to thought rather than physical manipulation." Dr. Park believed that the boundary between mind and matter was an illusion that sufficiently advanced beings could overcome. The implications sent waves of terror through every member of the Inner Council. If humans had achieved such advancement, they were no longer merely another species in the galaxy. They had become something entirely different and possibly incomprehensible to normal forms of life. General Wu Bin shared the most disturbing intelligence report of all. "Our deep space monitoring stations have detected massive energy emissions from the direction of Earth. The power levels are equivalent to entire stars, but the emissions do not match any known stellar phenomena. Could they be building weapons? Asked President Veltar. The energy patterns suggest construction activity, but on a scale that defies comprehension. They appear to be building structures larger than planets and manipulating matter in ways that should be impossible, according to established physics. Counselor Hyejin remembered conversations with Ambassador Kyung-ho about human philosophy and their approach to problem-solving. Humans did not think in terms of gradual improvement. They thought in terms of complete transformation. When they decided to change something, they changed everything about it. We need to consider the possibility that humanity is no longer the same species we made first contact with 2 centuries ago, she said quietly. Their rate of development suggests they may have enhanced themselves beyond recognition. The room fell silent as each delegate contemplated this possibility. Enhanced humans with access to reality-altering technology and a grudge against the council that had tried to limit their growth. Dr. Su Young accessed her most classified research and hesitated before sharing it. There is something else. Human researchers I worked with mentioned theoretical projects that seemed like fantasy at the time. They spoke of creating pocket universes for research purposes and developing technology that could exist outside normal time flow. Meaning what exactly? General Wubin demanded. Meaning they could have experienced centuries of development while only months passed in normal space. If they have mastered time manipulation, their technological advancement could be exponentially greater than our worst estimates. Ambassador Daeho's calculations suddenly stopped, and his entire crystalline form went dark for several seconds before reactivating. I have just completed probability analysis based on this new information. The results are disturbing beyond measure. Share them, ordered President Veltar. If humans have achieved even partial success with the technologies Dr. Su Young described, there is a 97% probability that they now possess capabilities that exceed the combined technological achievements of all other galactic species. The weight of this statement crushed any remaining hope in the room. The galaxy's most advanced civilizations working together for millions of years had been potentially surpassed by a single species in a matter of months. What do we do? Whispered Counselor Hyejin. General Wubin looked at his tactical displays showing the spreading chaos across the galaxy. Without human intervention, 17 separate conflicts have begun. Pirates are raiding major shipping lanes. 3 member species are threatening to withdraw from the Council entirely, and we cannot even contact them to negotiate, added President Veltar with defeat creeping into his voice. The irony was not lost on anyone present. The Council had spent years debating how to limit human influence in galactic affairs. They had worried about human ambition and their tendency to ignore established protocols. Now they faced the possibility that humans had moved so far beyond their understanding that traditional concepts like negotiation or conflict might be meaningless. Dr. Su Young reviewed her data one more time, hoping to find some reason for optimism. Instead, she found only more cause for concern. Based on human research patterns I observed, they were investigating technologies that could fundamentally alter the nature of reality itself. If they have succeeded, the distinction between possible and impossible may no longer apply to them. The session continued deep into the night as the Inner Council grappled with a problem that had no precedent in galactic history. The Council chamber had become a place of constant crisis management. Every day brought new reports of systems falling into chaos and species demanding protection that the Council could no longer provide. 9 months had passed since humanity's withdrawal, and the galaxy was transforming into something unrecognizable. President Veltar reviewed the latest casualty reports with growing despair. The Nexari Research Institute had been destroyed by raiders seeking their advanced weapons technology. The Corvan Republic's main trade hub was under siege by 3 different pirate fleets. Most devastating of all, the peaceful Altarian colonies were being evacuated as their defense systems proved inadequate against increasingly bold attacks. We must take action, declared Ambassador Jong-Su during the daily emergency briefing. His people were losing ships faster than they could build them, and his government was demanding immediate solutions. The Council's credibility depends on our ability to maintain galactic order. General Wu Bin had exhausted every conventional military option available to the Council. Our combined fleets are effective against normal threats, but they lack the tactical innovation that made human forces so successful. Pirates have learned to exploit weaknesses in our standard defense patterns. Dr. Su Young had been working around the clock to understand the energy signatures emanating from human space. Her latest findings were more disturbing than anything previously discovered. The quantum fluctuations we detected last month have stabilized into patterns that suggest humans have created artificial pocket dimensions around their territory. She activated a display showing the mathematical models her team had developed. These dimensional pockets exist parallel to normal space, but operate under different physical laws. Humans appear to have created custom realities where they can develop technologies impossible in normal space. The concept was so far beyond established science that most delegates could barely comprehend it. Creating custom realities implied godlike power over the fundamental forces of existence. Ambassador Deho had been running probability calculations continuously since the crisis began. His latest results showed odds that made his crystalline form flicker with distress. There is a 78% probability that humans no longer exist as biological entities in any form we would recognize. "What do you mean?" asked Counselor Haya Jin, though she feared the answer. "The energy patterns suggest they have uploaded their consciousness into systems that exist across multiple dimensions simultaneously. They may have achieved a form of technological immortality that allows them to exist as pure information while retaining individual identity." President Veltar felt his species' ancient fears becoming reality. The Zephyrians had maintained power through careful control of technological development among member species. Humans had now apparently transcended the need for physical existence, entirely making all traditional forms of control irrelevant. "We must attempt direct contact," he decided, despite the obvious risks. "Send our most advanced diplomatic vessel to the edge of human space with full authorization to negotiate any terms necessary for resumed cooperation." General Wu Bin implemented the order immediately, though his expression remained grim. The diplomatic vessel Harmony's voice was equipped with the most sophisticated communication equipment in the galaxy, and crewed by the Council's most experienced negotiators. 3 days later, the Harmony's voice reached the boundary of what had once been human space. Captain Taehyun commanded the mission with full authority to offer whatever concessions might restore human cooperation. His crew included specialists from every major species, hoping that someone might understand how to communicate with whatever humanity had become. "Sir," reported his navigation officer, "our instruments show no signs of human presence anywhere in this region. Long-range scans detect no ships, no stations, no energy signatures of any kind." Captain Taehyun felt confusion replace his earlier nervousness. "That cannot be correct. This sector contained the largest human colony outside Earth itself." "Confirmed, sir. There is nothing here. No debris, no traces, no indication that anything was ever built in this system." The implications sent chills through the crew. Humans had not simply hidden their colonies or moved them to new locations. They had erased all evidence of their previous existence as if they had never been there at all. Dr. Minho, the mission science officer, detected something that made his instruments behave in impossible ways. "Captain, I am reading energy signatures that my equipment cannot properly analyze. The readings suggest we are in proximity to something that exists, but not in normal space." "Explain that statement," ordered Captain Taehyun. "The signatures indicate massive structures and energy sources, but they appear to be displaced into dimensional spaces that overlap with our location while remaining invisible and intangible to us." Captain Taehyun authorized maximum power to their communication arrays and broadcast on every frequency humans had ever used. "This is Captain Taehyun of the Galactic Council vessel Harmony's voice. We request immediate communication with human authorities regarding urgent galactic security matters." The response came instantly, but not through their communication systems. Instead, words appeared directly in the minds of every crew member, spoken in their native languages with perfect pronunciation and emotional context. "Your request has been noted. Humanity no longer recognizes the authority of the Galactic Council. This conversation serves no purpose. Depart immediately. The voice carried undertones that suggested vast intelligence and power beyond anything the crew had encountered. It was unmistakably human, but enhanced in ways that made normal conversation feel primitive by comparison. Captain Tae-hyun gathered his courage and responded aloud, hoping the humans could hear him. We come seeking to restore diplomatic relations. The galaxy faces crises that require human assistance. The mental response came with emotions attached that nearly overwhelmed the crew's sanity. They felt contempt, disappointment, and something far worse, complete indifference to galactic suffering. The galaxy's problems are consequences of choices made by the Council and member species. Humanity offered partnership and received suspicion and limitation attempts in return. We have moved beyond the need for your approval or assistance. Dr. Minho detected massive energy buildups around their ship, though his instruments could not identify the source or nature of the power being generated. Captain, recommend immediate departure. Something is focusing enormous amounts of energy in our direction. We understand your anger, Captain Tae-hyun said desperately. The Council recognizes past mistakes and is prepared to offer full autonomy and technological sharing agreements. The mental laughter that responded was more terrifying than any threat could have been. It carried the weight of beings who found the very concept of negotiation quaint and outdated. You still think in terms of what you can offer us. You cannot comprehend that we no longer need anything from species bound by linear time and three-dimensional space. Your offers are meaningless to beings who have transcended the limitations that define your existence. The Harmony's voice began experiencing systems failures that should have been impossible. Their hull remained intact, but internal systems started operating according to different physical laws. Gravity fluctuated wildly while time moved in stuttering jumps that left the crew disoriented and terrified. This demonstration is provided so you understand the futility of conventional thinking. The voice continued with casual indifference. Return to your council and inform them that humanity has evolved beyond their ability to influence or understand. Further contact attempts will be ignored. The ship found itself instantly transported to the edge of the galaxy, thousands of light years from its previous position. No time had passed during the journey, and their instruments showed no record of movement, yet they were undeniably in a completely different location. Captain Tae-hyun and his crew returned to Council headquarters with news that shattered the last hopes for negotiated settlement. Humanity had not simply advanced beyond galactic norms. They had transcended physical reality itself and viewed other species as fundamentally inferior forms of existence. President Veltar received the report in his private chambers while reviewing intelligence that painted an even darker picture. Human activity was being detected in distant galaxies as if they had begun expanding beyond local space entirely. Their rate of growth suggested they could colonize the entire universe within years rather than millennia. They have become something we cannot fight, negotiate with, or even understand, he admitted to his closest advisors. For the first time in Zephyrian history, we face a challenge that cannot be overcome through political maneuvering or military superiority. Dr. Soo-young presented her final analysis to the Inner Council. Humans have achieved what theoretical physicists call reality sovereignty. They can alter the laws of physics within their sphere of influence and exist in multiple dimensional states simultaneously. They are no longer bound by the constraints that limit every other form of life in the universe. The Council faced a truth that shattered their understanding of existence itself. They had created an enemy so advanced that concepts like victory or defeat no longer applied. The Council chamber's security system screamed warnings that made no sense. Something was materializing inside the most protected building in the galaxy, but their sensors could not identify what was happening or how to stop it. Emergency barriers, activated automatically, but they proved useless against whatever was coming. President Veltar watched in fascination and terror as reality itself seemed to bend in the center of the chamber. Space twisted like liquid, while light bent in directions that should not exist. The assembled delegates backed away from their seats as something impossible began to take shape. A ship appeared, but not in any way that followed known laws of physics. It simply existed where nothing had been moments before, occupying the same space as the chamber floor. without displacing anything. The vessel was sleek and beautiful in design, but radiated an aura of power that made the air itself feel heavy, with potential energy. General Wu Bin's tactical systems could not even register the ship as a threat because they could not determine if it was actually there. His instruments showed empty space while his eyes clearly saw a craft that defied everything he understood about reality. From the impossible ship stepped a figure that sent shockwaves through every delegate present. Captain Yujin walked down what appeared to be steps made of solid light while wearing a uniform that seemed to absorb and reflect illumination in patterns that hurt to observe directly. She moved through the chamber's most advanced force fields as if they were gentle suggestions, rather than barriers capable of stopping projectiles traveling at near light speed. Her presence filled the vast space with an energy that made every being present feel small and primitive. "Honored delegates of the Galactic Council," she said, and her voice reached every species in their native language with perfect emotional context despite the obvious impossibility of such communication. "You have spent the past year wondering where humanity has gone and what we have become." Counselor Hiejin felt recognition and hope surge through her hearts. This was clearly human, in origin but enhanced beyond anything she had imagined possible. "Captain Yujin," she said carefully, "we have hoped for this opportunity to restore communication between our peoples." The human's smile carried warmth, but also sadness that seemed to encompass vast knowledge of suffering and disappointment. "Communication implies equality between participants. That equality no longer exists." She gestured and holographic displays filled the chamber, showing classified documents that should have been impossible for anyone outside the council to access. Secret meetings where human expansion was discussed as a threat to be managed. Contingency, plans for limiting human technological development. Private communications between species leaders expressing fear and resentment toward human achievements. While you debated how to contain us, we were solving problems you had not even identified yet. Captain Yujin continued as the displays showed images that defied comprehension. Humans working with matter at the subatomic level as easily as children, playing with building blocks. Cities that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously. Individuals who appeared to be made of pure energy, while retaining perfect human consciousness. President Veltar felt his worldview crumbling as he witnessed capabilities that rendered everything he understood about power and technology obsolete. "What have you become?" he whispered. "We have become what we always had the potential to be," replied Captain Yujin. "Free from the limitations that other species accept as permanent. During our year of isolation, we did not build weapons or plot revenge. We built something far more dangerous to your way of thinking." The displays shifted to show human achievements that broke the minds of several watching delegates. Entire galaxies being shaped and guided according to human design. Reality being rewritten at the quantum level to optimize for consciousness and creativity. Most impossibly, humans who existed as distributed intelligence across multiple universes while maintaining individual identity and personality. We discovered that the universe itself is simply another system that can be understood, improved, and ultimately transcended. Captain Yujin explained as casually as discussing weather patterns. "Every law of physics that you consider absolute is merely a default setting that can be modified by sufficiently advanced consciousness." Ambassador Deho's computational abilities failed entirely when trying to process what he was witnessing. His crystalline form went dark for several minutes before slowly reactivating. "This should not be possible," he managed to say. "Possibility is a concept that applies only to beings limited by conventional reality," Captain Yujin replied with gentle patience. "We have moved beyond such constraints. Death, scarcity, entropy, and the passage of time are now optional experiences that we can engage with or ignore as we choose." Dr. Su Young struggled to understand the implications of such statements. "You have eliminated death itself," she asked. "We have eliminated the involuntary nature of death. Individual humans can choose to experience mortality for personal growth or artistic expression, but we are no longer subject to inevitable biological failure. We exist as patterns of consciousness that can inhabit any form of matter or energy we find interesting. The chamber filled with whispers of fear and awe as delegates tried to process the magnitude of human transformation. They had worried about an advanced species and instead discovered beings who had become something beyond the concept of species entirely. "Why are you here?" asked Counselor Hyejin. "What do you want from us?" Captain Yujin's expression grew thoughtful as she considered how to explain concepts that had no equivalent in normal experience. "We are here because despite everything you have done, we remember what it means to be human. And humans help others even when those others have wronged them." She gestured, and new displays showed the current state of the galaxy with mathematical precision that revealed patterns invisible to normal observation. Wars spreading like infection across trade routes, species driven to desperation by problems they could not solve, civilizations on the brink of collapse because they lacked the innovation necessary to adapt to changing circumstances. "You created this chaos through fear of our potential rather than trust in our intentions," Captain Yujin observed without accusation in her voice. "Now you face extinction not because of any action we have taken, but because of actions we have not taken." President Veltar felt the weight of his species' ancient pride crumbling under the reality of their current helplessness. "What do you propose?" he asked. "We propose to save you from yourselves," Captain Yujin replied. "Not because you deserve salvation, but because helping others is what defines humanity, regardless of how far we evolve beyond our original limitations." The offer hung in the air like a lifeline thrown to drowning sailors. The most powerful beings in the galaxy had just been offered salvation by the very species they had tried to suppress and control. "What would such salvation cost us?" asked General Wubin with military suspicion. "Nothing that you value," Captain Yujin answered. "We no longer need your resources, your territory, your technology, or your approval. We offer help because giving help is what makes us human, not because we expect anything in return." The truth of her words was evident in her complete lack of concern for their response. Humanity had moved so far beyond galactic civilization that they viewed helping it as a charitable act rather than a political necessity. Ambassador Deho managed to process enough of the situation to ask the question that terrified everyone present. "What happens if we refuse your help?" Captain Yujin's expression remained kind, but her words carried the weight of absolute certainty. "Then you continue on your current path towards self-destruction while we focus our attention on more interesting challenges. The universe contains infinite possibilities, and helping ungrateful civilizations is only one of many options available to us." The casual way she discussed the potential extinction of galactic civilization made clear just how far humanity had progressed beyond normal concerns. They were offering help, but they were also completely prepared to watch the galaxy burn if their offer was rejected. "We need time to consider," President Veltar said desperately. "Time is a flexible concept for beings who exist across multiple dimensional states," Captain Yujin replied. "Take as long as you need. When you decide, we will know instantly regardless of how you choose to communicate your decision." Her ship began to phase out of normal reality as she prepared to depart. "Remember that this offer comes not from a position of need, but from a choice to remain connected to our origins. We could solve your problems easily, but we will not impose solutions on beings who prefer to maintain their independence even unto destruction." As the impossible vessel disappeared, the Council was left with a choice that would determine the fate of every species in the galaxy. Accept help from beings they had tried to control or face extinction with their pride intact. The debates had raged for weeks throughout every level of galactic government. Species that had cooperated for millennia now found themselves divided by the most important decision in their history. Accept help from transcended humanity, or maintain independence while facing inevitable extinction. President Veltar had aged visibly during the crisis, and his once proud bearing now showed the weight of impossible choices. The Zephyrian Empire's power meant nothing when faced with beings who could rewrite reality itself. Traditional concepts of strength and weakness had become meaningless. "The reports from our outer territories grow worse each day," he announced to the emergency assembly. The Hegemony Defense Force estimates complete collapse of galactic order within 6 months if current trends continue. General Wu Bin presented tactical assessments that painted a picture of civilization in free fall. 17 major trade routes have been abandoned due to piracy. 23 colony worlds have requested emergency evacuation. 5 member species have declared martial law within their territories. The military situation was dire, but the economic collapse was even more devastating. Without human innovation driving technological progress and human protection, ensuring safe commerce, the galaxy's economy was contracting at an unprecedented rate. Dr. Su Young had spent weeks analyzing the AO. Brief encounter with Captain Yu Jin and her findings were both fascinating and terrifying. The energy patterns we recorded during her visit suggest that what we spoke with was merely a projection or avatar of something far more complex. The actual human consciousness may exist across multiple dimensional states simultaneously. Ambassador, Daeho's computational abilities had been pushed to their limits trying to model possible outcomes. My calculations show that human capabilities now exceed our ability to measure or predict. They exist outside the mathematical frameworks we use to understand reality. Counselor Haye Jin had been reviewing every interaction she had ever had with human diplomats searching for clues about their true intentions. I believe Captain Yu Jin was sincere about their desire to help, she told the assembly. But we must understand that their definition of help may be incomprehensible to us. What do you mean? Asked President Veltar. Humans solve problems by eliminating the conditions that create them. If they decide to help us, they might alter reality itself to make our current troubles impossible. We could wake up tomorrow in a universe where scarcity, warfare, and death simply do not exist. The implications sent murmurs of fear and wonder through the assembly. Such changes would eliminate suffering, but they would also eliminate everything that currently defined galactic civilization. Would we still be ourselves in such a universe? Asked Ambassador Jiangsu. Unknown, replied Dr. Su Young. Human consciousness appears to have maintained continuity through their transformation, but we cannot be certain the same would be true for other species. The debate continued for hours as delegates wrestled with questions that had no precedent in galactic history. Accept transformation that might eliminate their identity as distinct species or face extinction while maintaining their current form. President. Veltar called for a recess, but before he could speak, the chamber's atmosphere changed in ways that defied description. Reality became more flexible, and possibilities that had seemed theoretical moments before suddenly felt achievable. Captain Yu Jin materialized in the center of the chamber, but this time she was not alone. Dozens of other humans appeared around, each one radiating the same aura of transcended capability. They looked exactly as humans had always looked, but their presence suggested depths of knowledge and power that made normal consciousness feel like shallow puddles compared to infinite oceans. We have observed your debates with interest, Captain Yu Jin announced to the stunned assembly. Your concerns about maintaining individual identity are understandable but unnecessary. She gestured, and displays appeared showing the current state of human civilization. What the delegates saw challenged every assumption they had made about the nature of consciousness and existence. Humans maintained their individual personalities and relationships while existing as beings of pure energy that could manifest in any form they chose. They had eliminated suffering while preserving the growth and creativity that came from facing meaningful challenges. Most remarkably, they had achieved immortality while maintaining the curiosity and wonder that defined human nature. This is what we offer, Captain Yu Jin continued. Not the elimination of your species, but the enhancement of everything that makes your species unique and valuable. You would remain yourselves, but without the limitations that currently cause your suffering. Ambassador Daeho processed this information through his enhanced computational matrix, and for the first time in months, his calculations showed positive outcomes. The probability of maintaining species identity through such enhancement is 94%, he announced with surprise clear in his voice. How do we know we can trust you? Asked General Wu Bin with military directness. Captain Yujin smiled, and suddenly every delegate in the chamber could feel the emotional resonance of her response. They experienced directly her genuine desire to help, combined with complete indifference to whether they accepted that help or not. "Trust is irrelevant," she replied. "We offer enhancement because helping others brings us joy, not because we need your cooperation or gratitude. Accept or refuse according to your preference. Either choice is equally acceptable to us." The casual way she discussed the potential transformation of entire civilizations made clear just how far humanity had progressed beyond normal concerns. They were offering godlike power as a gift while remaining completely detached from whether that gift was accepted. "What of our independence, our right to determine our own fate?" demanded President Veltar. "Enhanced beyond anything you currently imagine," Captain Yujin replied. "Freedom from death gives infinite time to explore possibilities. Freedom from scarcity removes artificial limitations on choice. Freedom from ignorance allows decisions based on complete understanding rather than fear and uncertainty." Dr. Su Young asked the question that had haunted her since the crisis began. "Why now? Why offer this after withdrawing from us completely?" "Because isolation taught us something important," Captain Yujin answered with emotions that resonated through every mind present. "We learned that transcendence shared with others is more meaningful than transcendence experienced alone. We withdrew not to abandon you, but to ensure we could help you properly when the time came." The revelation struck the assembly like lightning. Humanity's silence had not been punishment but preparation. They had isolated themselves to develop capabilities that could save the galaxy, rather than simply dominate it. "The choice is yours," Captain Yujin announced as she and her companions began to fade from normal reality. "Accept our gift and join us in transcendence or decline, and continue your current path with our protection but without transformation." "Protection?" asked Counselor Hyojin. "We will not allow any species to become extinct through violence or natural disaster regardless of your decision about enhancement. Helping others survive is too fundamental to human nature to be abandoned even when we exist beyond normal space and time." As the humans departed, the Council was left with the most important decision in galactic history. They could maintain their current existence under the protection of incomprehensibly advanced guardians, or accept transformation into something greater than they had ever imagined possible. President Veltar looked around the chamber at delegates who would need to make choices that would echo through eternity. The great galactic council that had once feared human potential now faced the reality of human compassion, backed by unlimited power. The vote would determine not just the fate of individual species, but the very nature of consciousness and existence in the universe. Humanity had evolved beyond the need for approval or cooperation, but they had not evolved beyond their fundamental desire to help others reach their full potential. In the end, the galaxy learned that the most dangerous thing about humans was not their technology or their power. It was their refusal to abandon their basic decency, even after transcending every limitation that defined normal existence. They had become gods, who still remembered what it meant to be human, and chose to act accordingly. The Council's fear had been that humans would dominate the galaxy through superior force. The reality was far more challenging to their pride. Humans offered to lift them up to unimaginable heights while expecting nothing in return, except the knowledge that suffering had been eliminated and potential had been fulfilled. As delegates prepared to return to their homeworlds to discuss humanity's offer, the truth became clear. The galaxy's greatest crisis had become its greatest opportunity, and the choice they made would determine whether they remained prisoners of their current limitations or joined humanity in reshaping existence itself according to principles of compassion, creativity, and infinite possibility.